My crew is driving me nuts.
And the big question is why? Your crew wouldn't be driving you nuts if you had an HR department. They would be driving them nuts in a good way.
That goes back to something earlier that Helen said, is we need clearly defined roles. This person does purchasing, this person is the foreman, this person does installs, this person does demolition. There's your org chart. It doesn't have to be fancy.
Right. And it paints a picture of structure.
My name is Dominic Rubino. Welcome to the Cabinetmakerprofitsystem podcast. I'm glad to have you here. Today, you're going to get a special inside look at somebody who really works as my right hand. We're going to be talking to Helen Vitoria. Now, those of you who already work with us know that Helen is a big part of our team here. She helps with all the onboarding, she helps with all the administration, and she really is a very strong part of our team. Now, many of you that work with us have also had Helen work with you, because that's kind of part of the service that we provide as business coaches to our clients. And Helen is an HR expert. You know how everybody got into business doing something, regardless of what they're doing today? I came in through the sales and management side. Helen came in through the HR side. She's got a huge background experience in real estate development, property management, project management, et cetera, and then moved into the HR side. And she does a lot of that here for our clients. Those are the stories you're going to hear from us today. As well, stay tuned at the end. I want to give you an update on the water project, the Christmas water project. It's been absolutely bonkers. It's been really, really good. And I've got some other updates for you at the end of the show that you'll have to wait to the end of the show to hear. In the meantime, let's get to Helen Vitoria sharing with us her experiences, her learnings, her observations from dealing with our coaching clients with their HR issues. Let's get to the episode. Helen Vitoria.
Hi, Dominic.
Oh, you're calling me Dominic now. Am I in trouble?
Yes, I am. Yes. But no, just for today.
Just for today. I mean, you and I talk, well, first of all, we don't talk enough. Last week, we didn't talk enough.
Last week, we didn't talk at all.
I know, that's bad. That is bad. People listening to this are like, who the heck is Dom talking to? I'll tell you this, if anybody knows us well enough or is a client, they obviously know who you are, because you're my right hand here at all the operating companies that we've got. Actually, why don't I put it in your hands? Helen Vitoria, who the heck are you? And how is it you come to be speaking to all these forward-facing contractors, cabinet makers, renovators, remodelers, other contractors all over the world?
Well, I have an extensive background in property management, which led me to a background in project management, which led me to dipping in and out of HR, different areas of HR for probably 30 years.
Yeah.
So that's who I am. And then I met you and have been with you for 4 years.
Yeah. Is it 4 years?
Almost.
Yeah, that's an
We're in the
intense 4
fourth year.
years. Yeah,
Yep.
that's an intense 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And here, I mean, you help me with all operations here.
Yes.
If people can't find me, they find you, and then you find me.
Usually.
Yeah. I'm actually a little bit afraid of you, to be honest. We probably shouldn't admit that.
I think it's okay. Fear is always good. It's always a good thing.
Yeah. But you know, what I've seen with you increasingly over the years is more of your HR background coming up with our coaching clients.
Right.
And you've been like, this is what we need to do. And so I just put you in touch with them and you help them out, which is nice. So I thought today we'd talk about 4 of the main ways I've seen you lean in with our clients and what you've done with them and, you know, how that's worked. So today we're going to talk about my crew is driving me nuts.
And the big question is why,
right? Yeah, right. Well, we
Right.
talk all the time about running this business on purpose, and that's a big part of what you and I do is we help people bring intention, like doing not just stumbling and fumbling through running the company, but
Right.
putting systems in place, making them work in places that most people don't think they even need systems.
Right. I agree. And I think most people in smaller to medium companies think they don't even need HR. We can do this. Your crew wouldn't be driving you nuts if you had an HR department. They would be
Yeah.
driving them nuts in a good way.
Yeah.
But HR is not. I think the misconception generally is that HR is a complaint department. I'm going to go tattle on my coworker. I'm going to go tattle on my boss, who's really a pain. But that's really not what they're there for. They're not there, you know, in the bigger corporations, and I've come from a very big background in banking,
Yeah.
is that they think that HR is there to just kind of always rally for the employee, when it's actually just there to sort of protect everybody's interest and decrease liabilities and also keep that temperature down.
Yeah.
in many ways.
Yeah. And listen, most of the people listening here truly can't afford a full-time HR person.
Right.
And that's why you and I, as part of the coaching, or sometimes if there's a bigger engagement, you do side work with the clients and lean in and do what they need to, and then you fade away into the background until they need you again. Then you
Right.
bring them
Exactly.
back in. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Um,
outsourcing HR is perfectly acceptable. It's
yeah.
in especially in smaller companies, and it's actually even better because you don't need them full time. You need somebody to dip in. I'm hiring people. I need some help. I have a employee that has some issues that we need to address. I need some
Mm.
exit interviews. These are the things you can outsource and dip in and dip out to an HR person when you need them.
You just said two of the four things I was hoping we'd cover today. Can I give you the big agenda for today?
Absolutely.
Helen knows every time we start a meeting, we build an agenda. And she laughs at me when I do it. Most of the time it starts with what are the numbers and then what do we get? Yeah. Okay. So here's the four things I figured that we'd cover off today. And some people won't be familiar with all these terms until the end of this, interview. DISC, which is behavioral style analysis, recruiting, onboarding, and then like you just mentioned, exit interviews. And you and I have just gone through a couple of different exit interview rounds. Um, and I'll wait for us to get there, but it's pretty interesting in what it tells us.
Right.
Yeah. Before we do that, do you remember when you first started with me 4 years ago? I hired you,
Yes. Yep.
right? And then I hired you an assistant. Do you remember your reaction to that?
Yeah. Why are you getting me an assistant? I'm doing my job. It's,
Yeah. So a lot of people listening don't even have an assistant. They don't have an executive assistant like you. And so they might be listening to this going, hold on a sec, Rubino. You hired an assistant and then you hired your assistant and assistant. What? Why? Which is, I think, your question. Like, why are you hiring me an assistant?
right, exactly.
Yeah. But what's your take been on that? How's that worked for us?
So it's excellent because
Mm,
it allows me to focus on the big picture with you. It
right.
allows me to focus on scaling up and
Mm,
also paying critical attention to where our systems are. Maybe they're not working as simply or as well as we'd like, and what
hmm.
we can change, what we can tweak, and the bigger picture to customer focus and our clients,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I would say that's the biggest part of our day is what does our customer need? How are we delivering it? Are
Exactly.
we delivering it? Did we miss something? What can we anticipate? And then you've got your assistant who helps
Right.
you just do the
With
stuff
everything.
so you can
Yeah.
manage. It's in a lot of ways you're back to project management with me.
In a lot of ways, yeah. And it's kind of funny. It's like it's a little bit of everything. It's the operational hat that keeps going, you know. So, and in a lot of ways, it is project management as well on the day to day, you know.
Hmm. But I'm not your only client. You've got law firms.
Few,
You.
a few clients, and but they're also varied in what they do. As you know, a few of them I gotten from referrals from you, thank goodness,
Mm,
and others are varied. It could be a law firm, it could be a school, it could be what have you. I've worked with several law firms throughout the past 5 or 6, 7 years now. And so that allows me to practice what I practice on an operational level, on a business manager level, on an executive assistant level, and also in a lot of ways, project management and certainly HR. So all those hats sort of fall under what I do.
I got this funny visual when you said HR at a law firm. I don't know if you've ever seen those videos of somebody putting their hand in it's not a baling machine, but it's a strapping machine. And then, the strap comes over and then another strap comes over and they're like, ah, no, help. And that's what HR at a law firm sounds like to me, like just
Not
constantly
that
tightening.
bad.
Anyways, let's,
It could be challenging, but I
yeah,
think HR in itself, anywhere you do it, is challenging.
it is because we've got people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
And
and I say this to our clients and our audience all the time. We're good at construction or contracting. Nobody told me this was going to be a people business. I like the smell of sawdust. I like seeing stuff done at the end of the day, built or disassembled or, a job completed. I never, this people thing,
right.
it's weird. It's like trying to punch a
And it's
marshmallow.
not easy. And I think that we often forget that these people have lives and they too have challenges and they sometimes will bring that to work. It's not ideal, but it happens because we're all humans. We all have the same human condition. And that
Mm,
being said, we need to learn how to sort of maneuver around one another in the best of ways and handle that.
Yeah. Well, this goes perfect because let's jump into the first of the four. Again, folks listening, we're going to be covering off DISC, which is something many of you have never heard about. Now, if you're in foreman training or if you're in coaching with us or if you're doing CP90, you've heard about DISC for sure. Then we're going to talk about recruiting, then onboarding, and then the exit interview. Hey, if you guys know me, you know I love Sun Tzu. His book is The Art of War. But you might also know that my old business partner is Brian Tracy. He's a famous author and business strategist. Brian Tracy once said, "Leaders think and talk about solutions. Followers think and talk about problems." Well, let me ask you, which one of those is your foreman doing today? And then think about Sun Tzu, the great general. And he said, in the midst of chaos, there's also opportunity. If your shop feels like chaos, the opportunity is to train your foreman to lead. That's what Foreman 101 is all about. Join me for a free info call. You, the owner, and your foreman have to attend together. Get on that wait list for the next free information session. Just text me at 315-903-7853 and say foreman training, and we'll get you on the list. Helen, let's talk about DISC. First of all, what the heck is it and why do we use it and why is it something most people have never even heard of? 3 questions.
I think people have heard of it. I just don't think they know how to name it because we all kind of subconsciously look for that person in an interview that's going to best suit our culture. And if we think about it in sort of a daily basis, we want someone who's going to get along with others, kind of practice our mission, have a great attitude, come to work ready to work, and doesn't have a lot of issues with things like lateness and not showing up and so forth, right? So when we give these DISC assessment personality tests to people, we sort of get a picture of someone. Is it foolproof? Certainly not. However, it helps you gauge a little bit about the person and the way that they think and that the way that they present themselves when it comes to the workforce.
Yeah. I want to know how they are going to act and react in different situations. And like you said, it's not perfect, but I'll tell you what, it's an 8 out of 10.
Yeah. It can't be perfect because people aren't perfect. And also, we're also complex beings, and that's where sometimes I think that DISC falls short a little. It forgets that each of us is a very complex individual. And where I may look great at a DISC, I may not be a good fit for you.
Right.
So, and that's okay. It doesn't mean I'm bad at what I do. It doesn't mean anything. It just means that we're not a fit together.
Yeah. So for those of you listening, I'll give a quick definition of DISC as well. It really talks about, like I said, how people act and react in different situations. But you have to think about in your shop or in your office. Let's take no, not HR. Let's take accounts receivable, somebody who's one of your accountants, or your bookkeeper. Do you want a bookkeeper who's really good with detail, like a stickler for detail, and really good with numbers? Maybe, the trade-off is they're a little bit introverted. Do you want that bookkeeper, or do you want somebody who just came off the cheerleading squad, who's friends with everybody, who's super outgoing and friendly? Now you might think, well, geez, I'd prefer the friendly person. Okay, but now you've got somebody who's going to go collect on an overdue account. Which one of those 2 people do you want? And that's where Helen and Dom and all of our coaches will come in and say, let's go look at a DISC profile of the ideal accounts receivable person or a finisher in the finishing department who needs to be very detailed. Even if it's going to feel slow, they're going to do it right. That's going to tell us who to hire and who to not hire.
I think we have to think about DISC in the terms of, is this personality right for this position? Not necessarily, is this a nice personality that I'm going to like? Because you may not particularly love that type of person, but they're perfect for that job. And then that's where you have to make that difference in your head make sense.
Yeah. And listen, DISC can be wrong. Let's not, but it's part of the decision making. I'll tell you the other thing that I've learned over the years with DISC is that now let's say I've got that finisher coming to me and they have a problem. Something's going on the floor. I've got their DISC profile in their employee file. And they say, hey, Dom, I got to talk to you today. I'm frustrated. I'm like, okay, give me a minute. Let me go, organize my office. I go to my office, I open up the file of their DISC, and it gives me their complete behavioral profile. And it's in the DISC assessment. It says, use these words, listen for these red flags, listen for these green flags, watch for this. And now I can run that meeting, making sure that I work properly with that person to keep them moving forward in the company. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the way you said that because it's not a replacement for HR, but it's certainly it can serve as a guide in the way that we
Mm,
communicate with others
yeah.
because certain people need certain type of communication. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll do a funny one before we move on to
Sure.
recruiting. So for those of you listening who are like, I still don't know how DISC works, sounds interesting, but I'm not really bought in. Some of you are going to react to what I'm about to say, and your stomach's going to turn and your head's going to go off in another direction. And all I'm going to do is start a sentence with, trust me, dot, dot, dot. So if anybody out there just heard me say, trust me, and now you're like, trust you? Dom, I did trust you until you said, trust me. Well, now I don't trust you. Is everything up till now been a lie? What are we talking about here? And so if you're ramping yourself up, that was a little test for about 25% of you out there. Yeah. Anyways, let's leave that. One of the other things that I've pulled you in on when we've had clients who they're just overwhelmed. They're growing, sales are up, profits are up, they've got new machinery coming in, they need to recruit, but they don't have time to recruit. And so they just hire whoever shows up at the door.
Right.
Or they don't know how to run an interview. And so they just end up talking to somebody for 2 hours, it goes nowhere. Um, what have you seen with the recruiting here, how we help people, and what are the typical problems that you see we're helping them overcome?
Right. So one of the first things I've noticed is we don't have a lot of job descriptions. So they're not really written. They know it, they know what they want. The job description is sort of in their head, but it's not on paper. And you
Right.
can't post it if it's in your head. You actually need it on paper. You need it to make sense. You need it to be well written, and you need it to be sort of the thing that grabs someone's attention and says, I kind of want to work for this company.
Yeah.
So we need to think about how we present ourselves. And in a job description, I feel personally it's important to put things like your mission statement and your core values, because those are the things that your culture that's what represents you as a culture in a company. So that being said, once we post the job description and we can screen our candidates based on that, we come up with a list of interview questions, and then I screen candidates for, in particular, our clients. And then I will share that screening with them, and we can go to the next step with certain candidates or end it there. I also think it's important how we represent ourselves as a company when we're putting ourselves out there. If we put an ad on Indeed, for example, don't be the company that doesn't get back to anybody. Don't be the company that interviews people and never lets them know if they got the job, don't have the job, if there's more coming. Don't be ghosting people. I think it's important that we represent ourselves in a professional manner and say, this is
Mm.
who we are. You're not the right fit for us. You're not the right person for us, but we appreciate that we had the opportunity to meet you. So I think it's important how we represent ourselves when we're looking for candidates as well. And we often forget that because we say, oh, the candidates would be lucky to have us. True, but we also are lucky to have them.
We
And we
need
have
them.
to remember that.
Yeah.
Right. We
We absolutely
absolutely do.
need them. Now, you and I just worked on a client way up in the tippy top corner, the Pacific Northwest, way up there. And we built an SOP based on how their company runs for recruiting. And it was multi-step. It wasn't somebody showed up, so we interviewed him. He seemed fine. That's not an interview. You put together a pretty detailed list, but a really nice walkthrough. Like first we do this, and then
Yep.
it felt. I mean, I know this, but I'm going to say it so other people understand it. The way you and I view recruiting SOPs is the person has to earn their way to the next step
Absolutely.
of a couple of different interviews, and it doesn't matter what position they have in the company. They got to move along steps. Tell me why you and I do that.
I think well, first of all, we need some sort of floor plan, right? We need that diagram of how we're going to go about recruiting people, the right people, hiring them, interviewing them, getting them to the next step.
Yeah.
Did they answer the screening questions the way we want them to? Of course, the disc will come into play at some point here. I normally would like to do the disc after they pass the first round of interviews. They've passed the screening, they've moved on to now we're going to have an in-person interview. Prior to them coming in, I will ask them to turn around a disc profile to me within 24 hours so that I have that opportunity to review it and go back to them and maybe ask different types of questions, maybe word my questions different to see what I want to learn about this person further.
Yeah. This is a lot of people listening are like, this sounds like a lot of work just to hire
It
somebody.
is a lot of work.
And but then what happens is you have somebody who's going to work for you for
Right.
years, right? So can I just take a quick second and talk to everybody in the audience? So folks, what Helen and I are talking about is making an impression when that person goes back home to their kitchen table and says to their wife or their husband, I'm getting interviewed in a way I've never been interviewed before. This is a serious company. They just gave me a test, and then I have another interview about that, and then there's another step. And at the kitchen table, the husband and wife are going to look at each other and say, I think this is the job you deserve.
Right.
Let's fight to win this. And now
Right.
you've got the support of somebody at home saying, okay, my husband or my wife's finally got the job they deserve. I hope they get it. As opposed to somebody going, yeah, I had an interview today, it was fine, whatever, McJob.
Right.
This one doesn't work, I'll get
Right.
another one. You want somebody to
Because
go, it was hard to get on
that's
this
the
team.
common, right. And so that's the commonplace. I think people walk away from interviews and think, oh, okay, it was another interview. Well, that's not what we want. You have to stand out as a company to attract the right people. You have to stand out. You have to look organized. You have to be organized, ask the right questions, present yourself a certain way. One of the questions I always ask at a screening is, did you have the opportunity to go on our website and research us? I want to hear that not only did they read that job description, and they took 10 minutes. I don't even care if it's 5 minutes, that you took a minute of your day while you're looking for a job to see what you're really applying for and to whom you're applying for that. And it's very important to me that the answer is yes. That does not mean a no answer will rule out a great candidate. Please don't
Mm-hmm.
think that. But it's important to me to know that you're quite interested in working for us as we are in talking to you.
Yeah. I I do love that question. I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you. That's why I always value your insight. Did you check the website to see what we do as a company? Did you have a
Right,
friend here who told you about the company? But
right.
yeah, I'm maybe a little more judgmental than you, which is why I'm not in HR. I'm more owner
Understood.
focused. Yeah, yeah. Hey, there's a story about three bricklayers, and now you might have heard this at church in a sermon, but let me take a shot at it. There's three bricklayers. Old story, right? At the end of the day, working hard, they go home for dinner. And out of pure coincidence, each of their kids asks them at the kitchen table, Daddy, what do you do? Well, the first dad said, I'm laying bricks. The second dad said, I'm building a wall. The third dad gets asked the question. He smiles to his kids and he says, Kids, at work, I'm building a cathedral. You see, they're all doing the same work, but they have three different visions. That is a nice little picture of leadership. Right now, your foreman might just be laying bricks, focused only on tasks. Look, Foreman 101 helps them see the bigger picture and lead your crew to it. I'll explain everything on our free information call. Remember, the owner and the foreman have to attend that call together. The first step is to get on the wait list for the next free info session. Just text me. You know my cell phone number. It's 315 903 7853 and say foreman training. Okay, so we've talked about DISC and we've talked about recruiting. And I think what people also heard you say is that DISC is an important part of recruiting,
Yeah,
right? So these
I
all
do think
build
it
on each
is.
other. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
It's a portion of it, right? It's like a building component of it, of recruiting. I don't think that you can leave DISC out. You shouldn't. If there's some different variations of DISC these days, also, it's some tests are, I wouldn't use the word test, assessments are 12 questions, others are 30. So it depends how deep you want to go, how
Yeah.
back you want to peel that onion back and see what we're dealing with in a candidate. Again, not your deciding factor, but certainly a little bit of a snapshot into a little more about the candidate.
It all adds up. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so now we've identified the ideal candidate using DISC. We've recruited, we've put recruiting strategies in place. Actually, we got to talk about this for a second. We just had a
Sure.
conversation with a really great set of owners. It's two partners, and they are recruiting labor on ZipRecruiter.
Mhm.
If those of you watching this on YouTube instead of listening on iTunes just saw Helen's face change, is there a
So
problem with recruiting, floor labor or field labor on ZipRecruiter?
there is and there isn't. It's definitely a good site. I like ZipRecruiter. And I like Indeed too, but each of these types of job aggregate sites, they tend to be lacking in certain types of jobs. And
Hmm.
that is not because of their fault in any sense, but it is because certain types of labor doesn't go to sites like that.
They don't go there.
And
Yeah.
they don't go there. Now, some do. Some do. I've had success. Some have worked, some have not worked out, but I've had success in knowing that people do respond to those ads as well. But there are companies out there who will connect you with those types of jobs. They cost a tremendous amount of money. And I'm not 100% convinced that they're not posting those jobs there as well. So that's, a
Yeah.
personal decision when a company gets there. But
Yeah.
as for me, I think there are other ways. There's apps like Nextdoor if you're looking for certain types of labor. One of the things you and I have talked about is the food trucks. Yes,
Oh,
that's another place you could do it.
yeah.
There's a million ways to find labor. You just have to get creative and think outside of the job site
Think
sometimes.
you have to fish where the fish are. Where is your ideal oh, senior benchman or tiler or electrician? Where are they hanging out?
Mhm.
we'll use this quick analogy and then move on. Imagine going to the greatest fishing river in your entire state or your province. And you go there, you got all your gear, you've got the best gear in the world, you've got everything to the nines. You walk along the access road, you get to the river, you face the river, then you turn around and you cast your lure back onto the road. And you will say to your friends, that was the worst fishing trip I ever had.
Right,
The fish weren't biting. And I'm like, dude, just
right.
turn around, go where the fish are. Right. And it's the same thing.
Yeah,
That's my take on Indeed. As you move through different Indeeds of Recruiter, the online tools, there's certain positions that will look there for jobs. There's certain positions that just won't. And that's why the food truck strategy sounds weird
one
and
of
it
that could work.
works.
Right. And I know companies who have gone to post it in a church environment. They've gone and posted it in the local bowling alley, things of that nature, where certain types of labor,
Yeah.
um, they're going to be. I mean, not everybody has a union hall where we can post our jobs anymore, right? So I have the guy who does my handyman stuff. Hi, Steve. He's out there somewhere. So he actually is a union person. And when he's looking to get placed in another position, he goes to the union hall. Here's a new job. Do you want to go to it? Yes or
Right.
no? Right. So those were the easy days, I guess. And now that's not the case for everybody. If it's a non-union shop, that's not the case. So we need to know where our people are. They're
Yeah.
out
So
there.
think about
We
that.
just have to find them. Right.
We have to find them. Yeah. Perfect. Okay, so we've got disc, we've got recruiting. Now this crazy thing called onboarding. And Helen, I don't have time for onboarding. So this is quite
Yeah.
often where I've leaned on you with our clients, and sometimes you do this with your
Yeah.
clients. What's onboarding and how does it work for the trades?
So, what's the most important thing with onboarding is you're going to sit with your person that you just hired, your new employee, and you're going to tell them, number one, about your company in a different way beyond the interview.
Right.
Because in the interview, we're always painting a different picture. Now you're going to get down to this is who does this, this is who does this. Sometimes they're not here because certain things are going on. You got to go to this one, pull out the org chart. I always say to people, please don't forget your org chart. So many companies just don't even have org charts. Make one, even if it's on a piece of paper, make one. Because when a new person comes in, don't we want to know who's who, what's what, and who does what? I
Yeah.
do,
And
right?
who
And
reports to who?
I want to know how this company is structured and how it works. And even if I never meet a person, I still want to know who they are and what they do, because in the big picture, that's where I belong now. So we want to be able to make people feel comfortable with that. And then the onboarding process is of the day to day. What do I need to share with this individual that I
Mm,
just brought in about what it's going to look like on a daily?
yeah.
And we
We're-
forget that so often and just throw people in jobs.
yeah. We treat them like, gold as we're interviewing them. Then we
Yeah.
interview them and ignore them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that
then when
doesn't
it
work.
fails, we wonder why it failed. Well, it failed because you have to put the time in, and you have to put the time in at the beginning, and a bit of it in onboarding doesn't have to have a time limit where, oh, in a week you're done and now you go out there. that person may come back to you in 3 weeks and say, I don't think we ever really discussed this. Could we have 20 minutes to discuss it? Sure, make the time. The
Yeah.
communication is the key here.
Yeah. It really, and that open, we've got the onboarding SOP as one of our download tools. People text us
Yes.
and ask for that all the time. It it's an agenda.
Yeah.
Because look, I don't know how to onboard somebody until I sit down and go, okay, what are the things they're going to care about? Who to call for what, like you mentioned, who's who in the zoo,
Right.
organizational. By the way, for those of you listening, going, we don't need an org chart. Everybody does everything. We're kind of
Yes, you
we're
do.
a nimble company. Then I will tell you that's great. You're going through a growth curve. At some point, you're going to say, oh, we're stepping on each other's toes. That goes back to something earlier that Helen said is we need clearly defined roles and an
Yes.
org chart. And an org chart doesn't have to be fancy like the corporate world that you used to work in.
No,
No. Do you want to know the simplest org chart exercise we ever give in coaching?
what's that?
Think of a board like a kitchen table, right? And half the people here make them kitchen tables, right? So you've got an oval kitchen table. You're sitting at the head of the table. Okay, who's
Right.
sitting at the table with you? Who are the big names that you need sitting at the table with you? Okay, draw that on a piece of paper. There's your org chart. That's all. That's it. This person does purchasing. This person is the foreman. This person does installs. This person does demolition. Okay, there's your org
So
chart. It doesn't have to be
it
fancy.
paints right, and it paints a picture of structure. And don't we all want that in a way, I think, especially at work? I mean,
Mm,
our personal lives could be God knows what kind of chaos, but I think at work, I need structure. You need structure. And when you onboarded me, you actually did a great job. And you had a document that was quite large and then said, this is everything. And it really was quite a bit of it. And it was not always easy to digest because it was a lot. However, it opened up the door to me to be able to see what's coming.
right. Thank you. By the way, I didn't know that I did a good job on onboarding, but
You
I'm
did.
sure I'm sure everybody listening is happy to hear that. Okay, Helen, we've done a great job so far. We've talked about DISC, we've talked about recruiting, we've talked about onboarding. Now let's talk about this thing called the exit interview, which honestly, a lot of people have probably never heard about. So let's start with this. What is an exit interview and why the heck would I need one?
So an exit interview almost serves as a final conversation, if you
Hmm.
will, with your HR person and or the owner or the person whom the employee reported to. Why are they important is because it's an opportunity to learn. What can we do better? What can we fix? What can we tweak? What did we do really well? Because in many exit interviews, when it's with an open and honest person and there's good communication,
Hmm.
you, as the employee, will walk away knowing where you have improved, where you need to improve, and where you're doing really great. So not everyone is open to an exit interview because not every separation of employee employer is a good one.
Well
And
said. Yeah.
you can always ask, I would like to conduct an exit interview, or you can hire someone to do it for you, someone like myself, which we've done.
Yep.
And that removes the personal. That
Right.
removes any sort of bad feelings, bad vibes, because it's someone who's completely neutral asking a few questions. Keep the questions short, keep them sweet, and keep them where you can take something away as the employer. The employee, the former employee in this case, why should they do it? If they left on their own and resigned or were asked to leave, I think it's that opportunity for them to say what they need to say.
Right.
Not every exit interview is going to go smoothly and go well. Some of them will get volatile. It is up to the person who's conducting it to keep it professional, keep it short, keep it sweet. The longer you make it, the more chance you give it to not go well.
Yeah.
So the idea is to take something away from it and learn from it and give you an opportunity for growth.
Yeah. The what I think I've seen, because I'm learning about these as well. I'm not an expert like
Right.
you on these. But first of all, only the top business owners really want to have that knowledge. Like, okay, what worked, what didn't? Let's have the conversation. But what was interesting, the last exit interview that you just did was a couple of weeks ago. The owner had this list of questions that they wanted you to ask, and you're like, yeah, those aren't legal.
Right? And it's
Some of them
because,
really were.
right, because it was filled with emotion. And I know that business owner really well. He is the nicest, most well-meaning guy in the world, but he was hurt by this particular person leaving. And at the same time, he still wanted to learn because he's a growth-minded, he's a forward-facing contractor. But you were able to come in and say, okay, I understand the emotion behind why you want to ask these questions, but according to state law and federal law, we can't ask that.
We can, right?
Right.
And we have to keep in mind a bigger picture with the exit interview is it really minimizes any chance of any open litigation, and it minimizes risk to you as the employer. You're not going to go in and ask inappropriate questions. You're not going to ask questions that you would not have asked when this person was your employee.
Mm,
And you give them the opportunity to also voice their concerns in the very end. You never want a he said, she said situation where there's lawyers involved and now we're all in court. You want to end this and end it kindly, professionally,
right.
humanely, with all of the right things in place.
Yeah. And that's why we do it. It is a professional
Absolutely.
way to end a relationship and give that person a chance to voice anything. We're not going to give away what came up in that last one, but there was some great learnings
Yeah.
that came from that. And there was a
Yeah.
repeat of the same themes, which we saw. So maybe that's a trail of breadcrumb that Hansel and Gretel would have followed to the old witch's house. Like, uh-oh, we got something here, right?
Right.
Helen, I appreciate your time. You and I have a super packed day, so why don't we
Yes.
wrap it here? But
Yes.
if somebody wants to get in touch with us and talk to you or talk to me about how this fits in business coaching, why don't we just get them to text us?
Excellent.
Yeah,
I need help with HR. That's all they have
that's
to
all.
say.
That's all I got to say. I need help with
Right.
HR. And folks, I think you know the cell phone number here, but it's 315-903-7853. Say what you got to say, but say, I need help with HR. And the other good thing is if you ever do get a chance to talk to Helen, Helen really knows all of the operations here. She knows all of the things that are going on. So most of you, I think most people have spoken to you if they've ever
Yeah, I
reached
think
out to
so at
us
this
because
point.
yeah. But I listen, I'm going to say this publicly. I love working with you.
I do too. You know, you and
Aw.
I have a great time working together, but man, does the work get done.
We get stuff done.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Thanks, Helen. I know we got a lot to do today,
Thank
so I'll let you
you.
go. Okay.
Thanks. See you
Bye.
later. Bye bye.
Well. Helen, thanks. Always great to be on with you. I probably talk to you 50 times a day, anyways. Just today we formalized it on a recording. And thanks for those insights, folks. Hopefully, you got a lot of takeaways. If there's anything that Helen and I talked about that you want insight on, or maybe a form that we use, or an SOP that we use, whatever it might be, or if you want to get in touch with Helen or I, just text me. You guys know my cell phone number. It's 315-903-7853. I also want to remind you at the time you're listening to this, well, at least at the time this was recorded, we're halfway through the first quarter of 2026. So go back and look at your strategic plan. Make sure that you're on track. Now is a great time to reset yourself and your team if you've already gone off the rails for where you want it to be here for the first quarter, because what we set up now in Q1 of 2026 is going to take us to the end, to the story you get to tell at Christmas parties and New Year's parties at the end of the year. So right now is an important time to do that. Go through your business exercises. If you already work with one of our coaches, make sure that you're ready for the exercises. We'll walk you through there. Let me move off that for a second and go to the Christmas water project like I promised. Look, it has been fantastic. I want to say thank you to each and every one of you who have left a like and a comment on any one of our episodes. Truthfully, it's a lot easier to do on YouTube. So go to YouTube and like or comment on an episode. It's not impossible to do on a podcast, but you've got to go to iTunes or whatever podcast player you use, do it there. We count all of them. And what happens is we count them as points. So if you leave a like, it counts as a point. If you leave a comment, it counts as a point. Well, we started and we had about 60 points a month. As of right now, we have 666 points a month. Horrible number, I know, but that's the point total. And what that means is I am now going to donate on your behalf, on my behalf, on our behalf as contractors to this open pit dump community in Nicaragua. And they sift through the dump for their living, for everything. So they don't have clean water. And not having clean water means the kids are sick and they can't go to school. So we're really solving a problem that we can solve and do it easily. Every time you click or every time you like or comment on an episode, doesn't matter which episode of mine, I'm going to donate 10 liters of drinking water, which is like 3 gallons approximately of water. So right now I have to donate 6,660 liters of water. Happy to do it. Do it all day long. That's why we're here, folks. We are here to leave a bigger impact and do something greater than us. And I think all of us are a force multiplier for that. So keep doing it. Do it with your kids. Say, hey, do you want to donate to this cause down in Nicaragua? If you go look at the website, you'll see where we do it. Just click and there you go. You've donated. Until you and I have a chance to drink an old fashioned, have a glass of wine or a cup of coffee, this podcast is going to have to do. I might see some of you at the Energy event in Anaheim. It's in a couple of weeks. I'm looking forward to that. I'll be wearing this blue vest and probably a blue hat, so I'll be easy to find. Come and say hi if we haven't had a chance to talk. I really do all of this so that one day you and I can shake hands. I look forward to that more than you would ever know. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next episode or in Anaheim.